as we prep for whatever might come, we want to make sure that we have good, true information that'll help us out. And that's what this video is devoted to, by the way. Stay through this because we're going to debunk some myths and probably even give you some information you didn't know that's going to be very helpful for you. All right, 14 things we want to look at as far as myths go. Number one, I can't see without my reading glasses. Well, I like my reading glasses too, but that's simply not true. They're convenient, but that's not the only thing you can do. You can take them off. Well, they broke in the apocalypse, and do what's called a pinhole effect. Just simply scrunch your fingers down really tight, look through that little hole. You can do it with a piece of paper as well. And what happens is through diffraction, it bends light, and you can see. Have you ever tried this before? You can see very well without glasses. It's easier to wear glasses, but either way. Number two, hydrogen peroxide is great for cuts. It's not good for cuts at all. As a doctor, I'm telling you, do not use hydrogen peroxide on cuts. It kills your healthy tissue. It kills your immune system in the area. There's all kinds of bad things. Don't use hydrogen peroxide on that. It's good for getting out stains. That's all it's almost good for. Number three, moss only grows on the north side of trees. And although that's how it happens most of the time, because the north side of the tree is usually more damp, it's usually facing away from the sun, any place that's damp or not having direct sunlight, moss can grow. So if you're using moss as a guideline to, get directions, that might be not be the best thing. If you see moss next to a tree that gets a lot of sunlight, yeah, it's probably facing north. Number four, EMPs will destroy all electronics. Boy, that's a huge myth that people think. And it's simply not true. Any electronics connected to the grid, kiss them goodbye. They are gone. They could even burst on fire and cause your house to catch on fire. But electronics, especially smaller ones that are not connected to the grid, just your cell phone sitting out or your pacemaker hanging out in your chest, there's an excellent chance it'll survive. In fact, all EMP tests done on pacemakers, they've always survived completely without a single situation where they haven't. So get that in your mind, that EMPs destroy all electronics. So only electronics connected to the grid. Secondly, number five, EMPs destroy all cars. Well, they'll always tell you like a certain date. It's almost like people make up the date, like 1984 and older, will survive. But almost all cars will survive, by the way. 95% of them will survive. If you have a car connected to the grid, like an electric car, goodbye car. But if it's an electric car or a brand new car, very brand new Cadillac driving down the road, 95% of them will survive. In fact, you can drive these cars, and EMP hits, and the car will stall out, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, what happened? Then 95% of them will start back up again. They may have a couple errors, like maybe a chip fried, so the windshield wipers don't work, or your radio doesn't work, etc. But don't get into thinking that all cars will fry. That's not true. Next, suck venom out of a snake bite. In fact, you can even get one of these kits. These are so useless. I bought this years ago thinking, everybody else thinks this. You can suck venom out of a snake bite, well, a venomous snake bite. It's not true at all. In fact, it usually causes more problems. So don't use this or your lips to suck venom out. It's just not good. Number seven, breakfast is the most important meal, and that's hogwash. I mean, if you like a good breakfast, I got it. You want to have some carbs in the morning, I got it. Have some coffee in the morning or a cup of tea like me, I get that. But if anything, what happens is when you eat that meal, when you first wake up, you're like, yay, I'm waking up, it's a good day. Then you eat that food. Eating food sends you into what's called parasympathetic activation, which slows down your metabolism, slows down your heart rate, makes you more sluggish. And that's why when people eat breakfast, they usually want to have like a cup of coffee with it too. Even though they're already kind of awake before they had breakfast, now they need the coffee to keep them awake. Breakfast is not what it's cracked up to be. Number eight, drinking alcohol like liquors, for example, will keep you warm. They will not keep you warm. They'll give you the sensation of feeling warm. And what happens is when you drink liquors and alcohols and stuff, it actually opens up your capillaries. Your capillaries along your skin, by the way, are not always open. They will open and close depending on the temperature regulation needs of your body. Your body likes to be at 98.6, so it's going to close some capillaries, to keep you at that temperature. And now you're in a cold environment, you drink some liquor, it opens those capillaries, it sends more heat to your skin from your body, makes you feel warm, but you're actually bleeding out your heat faster than you normally would. So in the long run, it may make you feel warm, but it'll actually make your body colder. Number nine, canned food expires. Wow, this is probably the number one thing that people argue about in this channel. Check it out. Check out with the food manufacturers. Check with the government, because we all trust the government, right? Canned food does not expire. As long as that can is intact, as long as the seals are intact on it, as long as it hasn't been dented or rusted, etc., it will last for decades. decades. It will not expire. Over time, it may lose a little nutrition, may turn a little bit more mushy, but 30 years into the apocalypse, you're going to enjoy your liquefied corned beef hash if you have no food at all. Number 10, going from light to dark, your eyes need to adjust. And that's because you're in an environment in a house where the lights on are nice, bright white lights. And when you go outside, they have to adjust. But if you could turn your entire house into red light only, when you have red light, it doesn't activate the typical cones in your eyes. And the cones is what makes you see all the beautiful colors. Instead, the red activates what's called rhodopsin, or the rods in your eyes. Rhodopsin is the chemical for that. So your eyes don't need to adjust. They're already being used. And what happens is when you go outside, you're using red light inside, the spectrum for the cones are actually basically very low. Your rhodopsin and your rods are actually more activated. You go outside, your eyes don't need to adjust. That's how a lot of military, by the way, we have red inside. So when you step outside, you can still see everything. All right, number 11. You can go for weeks, 3 weeks without food. And although technically that might be true, you can't go 3 weeks without food. I mean, you could probably survive. You'll go for like 3 or 4 days without food. Then you'll be laying on the floor like a slug for the next couple weeks saying, I thought we can go 3 weeks. What's happening here? Your energy and keeping your blood sugar up obviously is mostly done through our food. If you're like on keto or carnivore, it's actually done through metabolism in your body. You can keep your blood sugar up without ever eating carbs at all. But what happens is over time, there are certain things you must have, like certain amino acids and proteins. You must have certain essential fats coming in through diet. And if you stop that, your metabolism will still drop down to very low. So although you probably could survive for 3 weeks, you're not going to be good for anything. And most people, if most people are like, you know what, I'm going to fast and not eat for a day. And that's great. It's commendable, whatever you want to do. But after a day, they're like, oh, I feel awful. That's after 1 day or after 2 days. Good luck for 3 weeks. Number 12, potassium iodide blocks radiation after nuclear event. Simply not true. There's over 300 different radioactive isotopes that literally are, could affect you and basically radiate you after nuclear event. One of those, out of 300, one of those is iodine. And what happens is the radioactive iodine will go to your thyroid gland. Your thyroid gland needs the iodine to make your thyroid hormones like tetraiodothyronine. And with that, suddenly you now have radioactive iodine in your thyroid gland, which drastically increases your chance for cancer. So you take potassium iodide after nuclear event, you're flooding your body with so much regular iodine that the radioactive has much less chance of going to your thyroid. Problem mostly solved. It's not foolproof by any means. It's not perfect. But the other still over 300 radioactive isotopes are still in your body and very well may kill you. Potassium iodide does not block radiation. It only blocks your thyroid and protects it. Number 13, layers of clothes will keep you warm. And overall, generally speaking, that's true. However, I want you to understand what layers you need is the important part, because if you have all these clothes to keep you warm, that's great. If you make your inside clothes cotton, like right now I'm wearing a cotton shirt, that is not what you want. That's a bad thing. And so if you are bugging out or hiking or survival, whatever the case may be, and you have a few layers on, you have lots of clothes on, even in the coldest weather. Have you done this before, hiking and camping in the snow? You'll sweat. You will definitely sweat. And that cotton shirt will soak up that water, stick to your body, rub on your body and cause like chafing and stuff. But beyond that, literally is dangerous, because now you get to your campsite for the night and you take off some layers, you're soaking wet. Cotton absorbs that. So overall, yeah, while you have the clothes on, it's keeping you warm, but it's also making you sweaty. So when you stop for the night, it literally can kill you. Cotton kills. Don't think about that. Or think about how you should be using wool instead. And then finally, number 14, water tablets will make your water safe. And that goes for a lot of water filters too, by the way. Well, it depends on what you consider to be safe, because if we're talking about biological agents, that's what water tablets are for, and most water filters too. So you take a big glug of water from a river full of all kinds of microorganisms. The water tablets and most water filters will inactivate those biological agents, like Giardia, for example, and make it so you don't get some kind of dysentery or gastrointestinal distress. That's great. But that's all they're good for, is biological agents. If there's chemicals in that water, chemicals coming down, those water tablets will do nothing. In fact, a lot of ceramic water filters will also do nothing. When we talk about chemicals, having an activated charcoal filter is what you need. But don't think those water tablets will fix that. They're only basically for like your lovely camping trip up in the mountains where the water's clean except for biological agents. All right, there we go. 14 things that we need to look at, myths we need to debunk, and I hope there's some things you actually picked up on here and said, oh, cool, and you can actually make your survival experience better. We always want to make our apocalypse a happy place. If there's anything you want to add to that, those little wives' tales that people think of that's simply not true, by all means, put them in the comments below. I'll make a part 2 of this video if need be, because there's lots of those, isn't there? Thanks for watching, everybody, and we will see you next time.